Today, I'm showing you one of the best opening of all time, the Queen's Gambit. It has been played by all the world champions, no matter if they mastered attacking or positional chess. Let's get started. The Queen's Gambit starts with d4, d5, and c4. The idea is that white is attacking the pawn on d5 and wants to take control over the center. Let's go straight into the Queen's Gambit accepted. Black is taking the pawn, and now my suggestion is to go with the most logical move. Take the center with e4. Look at those two pawns. They are very strong, controlling very important squares in the center, and white wants to go on with the most logical development. Knight on f3, knight on c6, bishop takes c4, bishop out on g5 or on e3, whatever. And then white is castling short, placing the rook on the open file, and white has an amazing position. That's a bit the dream. Let's see now what black can do to stop it. A typical move would be b5. Spoiler, this move is bad. The idea is that black is just supporting the pawn. Black doesn't want to give up the pawn so easily, but white has the strong a4. Now, a6 would be terrible, because after pawn take, goodbye rook. So that's not an option. A c6 could also be played, but here you take, pawn take, and now knight c3, you're attacking one more time. How to protect? Again, a6 is not an option, don't forget about this rook. So one idea could be queen b6. This is the most played move. But here white has a very strong move, b3, exclamation mark. After pawn take, white is taking first here with check, and then in the next move will take also this pawn. So white will have equal material, and don't forget about this good center here. Black could also decide to play the normal knight f6, just developing a piece and attacking the pawn on e4. But that's not a big deal because you can expand at the center, and after knight moves somewhere, you take back the pawn, and white has a beautiful position, easy to get out with the piece. The best move in this position is to go immediately and attack this incredible center with the move e5. And now we need to be precise, because if we take, well, we don't get a very fun position. Oh no! Because black is very fast to complete the development, and we cannot castle anymore. Bishop e6, then knight here, long castle, and those pawns are a bit weak. So we don't want to do this. Let's go back here. What to play? We just develop a knight, protect the pawn, and we are attacking now to take this pawn with the knight. That's why basically black is forced to take the pawn on d4. And now, attention. We don't take here on d4, because if we do, there is bishop c5, bishop e3, protecting, and now knight f6. Easy move, attacking this pawn, we protect, and now knight g4. Well, this would be already problematic. Black is threatening to take our strong bishop, and then this knight is feeling a bit embarrassed. Reason why at move 5 we need to be precise. Again, bishop takes on c4. This bishop is very strong. Remember, always hitting at a very vulnerable point on f7. That's why here black cannot really play just standard normal move like knight c6, because after we castle knight f6, there is already the strong queen b3, and how to protect this pawn? There is e5 incoming, rook e1. Black is in trouble here. At this point, black needs to be precise and play bishop b4 check, trying to be very fast with the king side development and exchanging some pieces. White needs to take care of the check. Bishop d2 is a natural move. Bishop takes, knight takes. This knight here wants to go towards b3 and eventually capture this pawn on d4. Knight c6 is a normal move. We castle. And now, attention, again, black cannot play just normal move. If knight f6, we keep going with e5. Knight d5, queen b3. This knight is not feeling too good, and the feeling is not even better for the pawn on f7. Same story if the knight goes to e7. In this position, we can go with knight g5, forcing basically the castle, but that's completely a lost position after queen h5. We're threatening mate, we're threatening to take here. That's GG for white. The best move in this position is queen f6. Not a logical move, because the queen is going in the square where the knight would like to go. How to keep going with white? We play rook e1. Knight g7, we play e5, we're attacking the queen, this queen will have to move, and as you can see, the knight wants to go to e4, and then eventually this pawn will fall. White has a very good position, and you don't need to worry at all about this. That's all for the Queen's Gambit accepted. Now we will see a few more possibilities for black. First of all, let's start with one way to protect this knight. Most players will protect this knight with the knight. because they think that it's logical. In opening like e4, e5 after knight f3, attacking this pawn, you usually protect with the knight. Also, when I play the King's Gambit with white, many beginners just protect it with the knight. So, I would like to spend a few words about knight f6 here, because if you're starting playing chess, your opponent will play this move a lot of time. And now what you do, you take in the center, the knight most probably will capture, and then boom, again you go for the center. This knight needs to use another tempo to retreat somewhere, let's say f6, now you develop your pieces, and then you're ready to keep going with e5, knight here, bishop out, castle, and white is so fast to activate all the pieces. That's amazing. Of course, this is not a good option, and black here has two solid possibilities and one gambit that we need to know. So there is e6, c6, and e5. This is the gambit. We will see this at the end. After the move c6, I recommend you to start playing this in a very easy way. You will capture here on d5, black will capture back. Now you just need to know how to go out with the pieces and what is the plan of this position. It's a very symmetrical position, really. You see, it's like a mirror. But you're white, so it means that you are faster doing any plan. So try to use that extra tempo and to know the plan of this position. I will show you now a classic development of all your pieces so that you know where to place them. First of all, start with bishop on f4. And the idea is that you want to keep an eye on this weak point on c7. Imagine a knight getting there. Well, that would be really cool. But that's not what is happening usually, because if you play knight c3, knight b5, there is always knight a5 check, so watch out for that. Now pay attention to how white is developing the pieces, bringing the knight out, castling on the king's side. And what about the middle game? White is usually taking control over the c files. There is a prophylactic move that you might want to remember, the move h3. The idea is that you have always the possibility to keep this bishop and to retreat it back to h2. And you will probably go with the queen on e2. You can always look for a move like e4. And remember, there is one open file, so please make sure to place a rook there. You can even double the rooks, you can even try to go with the knight on e4, knight on c5, a nice square for the knight, or knight b5, knight c7 as we saw. This is equal to slightly better for white position, and you have an extra move, and so you can be the first one to attack. Use that extra tempo and you will have nice positions. The most played move in this position is e6. Now, how to keep going? We go with the knight out, knight f6, and we go with this bishop out. Remember, don't play the move e3 too early, because this bishop would be sad inside the box. So make sure to first go out with the bishop, and then, just then, you will play the move e3. After bishop e7, we reached a critical moment. Now, my suggestion is to capture on the e5. The idea is that we want to avoid some very complex variation. I will show you shortly. If we play just the move e3, castle, knight here, knight bd2, bishop d3, now black has a very nice plan to develop all the pieces. Taking on c4, making our bishop move again, and then after a6, castle, there is the move b5. We have to go back one more time with this bishop, and then black will play bishop on b7 and play the move c5. And if black can do that, black will equalize the position. So, I don't want to give this opportunity. We take on d5, and now white has two very nice plans. Let's have a look at this. It's important to start with e3 and not with knight f3, and I will show you the reason. The move e3 is important instead of the immediate knight f3, and the reason is to avoid bishop on f5. In this position, the bishop on f5 runs into queen b3, and now both pawns are under attack. That's why in this position, white plays the move c6. And now bishop f5 is an idea, but we play bishop d3. Now we are stopping the bishop to get active there. But if here we play knight f3 after c6, we are not in time, because after e3, the bishop gets to f5. That's why remember, first e3, and then after any move of black, we will play bishop d3. Black here castles, we go with the bishop on d3, knight here, queen c2, rook e8, knight f3, knight f8, castle, and we see the move c6. Now, I need to tell you two plans for white. The first one is the so-called minority attack. What we do is to push baby those pawns, rook b1 to support the pawn on b4, go on b5, and we want to create a weakness. I will just make move for white just to show you how white creates ideally a weak pawn for black. b4, a4, a6 is a typical way to prevent b5, but we played anyway. And after the exchange, now the rook is hanging, so let's exchange it. And now black has basically two options. Either you take on b5, or you let white capture on c6. If black takes, we will take back with whatever piece, and then those two pawns will be weaknesses because they are alone, they cannot be protected by any other pawn. And if black just plays an next move, we will take there, and after pawn take, this pawn will be weak forever. We can keep going by placing a rook here, or a rook here, knight on a4, knight on c5, knight on e5. White is a very comfortable position. Going back to this position, white has also another idea, and is to play for the center, mostly with moves like f3, e4. Of course, you have to be very careful for going to this plan and push on e4 just at the right moment. Because remember, every time you push a pawn, this doesn't go back, and you leave squares weak around. So before playing the move f3, make sure that this square is well protected. And before playing the move e4, make sure that the square on d4 is well protected. This pawn might hang if you're not careful. So make sure to prepare it by placing rook on d-file, e-file, and sometimes you can even maneuver the bishop back on f2 just to be very solid, and you will have a good position. We are nearly done. We need to see the so-called Albin Countergambit, e5. Here you need not to take on d5, because after queen takes, black has an easy position. You can just go out with the pieces, maybe take on d4 with a pawn, develop easy way, no problem for black. So, take the other pawn on e5. And now black plays the very tricky d4. Now we need to know how to develop our pieces, because if white here is not careful, might play the move e3 with the idea to exchange this annoying pawn on d4, but this run into a terrible trap. Bishop b4 check. Let's see it from black's perspective. Bishop d2, and now pawn takes on e3. You might say free cheese piece macaroni. Well, not really. Pawn takes. Now the king cannot take because the queen would be hanging. So the king needs to go on e2. And now incredible move. We take promoting, but to a knight, giving a check. The king must go back here on e1 to keep the queen protected. But now there is queen h4. The king can go just here on e2. If g3, of course, this check is really like super good for black. So king d2. And now white can just play knight f6 followed by bishop f5, long castle with check. And this is just completely lost for white. So be careful. Let's go back to this position. Let's flip the board and what to play for white. You develop the knight. You protect this pawn and you attack this one. And then after knight to c6, you play the move g3. And now, black will capture back the pawn with knight g7, bishop here, knight g6, castle. Black is capturing back the pawn sacrificed, but it's no problem. We take, knight takes, and now we develop the other bishop also in fianchetto with b3. Now, if black plays the move c5, we play the move e3. That's why the main move is bishop c5, protecting with the piece. Now, e3 is not really a good move, so we won't consider this, but you play bishop b2. And now the only thing you need to know is that this pawn will always be a weakness, a target that you want to attack, and you need to stay active. For example, you keep going with knight e2, knight e4, you're attacking the defensor of this pawn, the bishop, and so you should have a good position. White is slightly better here. And that's all for the Queen's Gambit. I'm also starting to experiment this opening. Please leave me a like and let me know if you have any question in the comments below. And also subscribe to the channel. If not, a malediction will occur. I don't know which malediction, but it will happen. Bye.